day to day, we'll proceed cautiously. Lower body, obviously, with his past history. So I think there's some optimism on the injury. Obviously, his history the last couple of years. Don't know if he'll be available Saturday. We'll get a better feel tomorrow. So that'll dictate whether we need to call someone up. We'll probably give it through tomorrow to decide that.
And Russo, was he maintenance day?
Maintenance day. Him and David Perron were both maintenance days today.
With Fabry, how much do you weigh his history?
That's a big part of it. I think that's the proceed cautiously part of it. So, again, I think seeing it, his reaction, you in his past history, boys were a little rattled about it last night. But then again, I think there was some optimism once the doctor got involved. But again, I think even that day-to-day range, we'll probably decide after tomorrow's practice if we'll need someone in the spot for the weekend.
Derek, I mean, based on his history and being cautious, and the way I think everybody reacted because of his history
Correct.
last night, was really feeling for him. Is this an encouraging report?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yes. Still, again, don't know if he'll be available for Saturday, but encouraging up against what he's faced the last couple of years.
Is 11 and 7 a possibility for you?
It is. Probably not ideal right now with our current lineup in a back-to-back with that type of matchup, but yes, it is a possibility. But if he's unavailable for the weekend, I would foresee us bringing someone up.
Derek, you've seen plenty of Tyler as an opponent when you were with Tampa, and now you've coached him for a bit. What's your scouting report for your team about him for this
When
weekend?
he's at his best when he hounds pucks. His best hockey is the tops of the circles down. He keeps plays alive. Keeps plays alive on the forecheck. He's good around the net. He's hard to play against in those areas. So exciting for him. Obviously he was a big part of our organization, big part of our team. He gets an opportunity to play meaningful hockey down the stretch. And it's just different. You're asked for a little more detail in your game. You're asked for a little bit different, maybe some of your habits. And I think this will be a really good experience for him.
Are you curious about how the team will react because it was so jarring that he was moved that, you said that, hey, can't feel sorry for ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, it's odd that you're playing him 9 days later, not only in back-to-back to boot.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think once, it might be a little bit early on, but I think once the guys start playing, it goes back to your basic instincts of competition. This league, the NHL, they're all, in my eyes, one percenters. A lot of guys are friends. They played juniors. They grew up. This is a little bit different with how close some of those relationships were with Bert, but I don't think so. I think once the game starts, competition just takes over.
What happens within the team when they just turn into a machine like Boston has, like Tampa was, and it's just like win after win after win?
Well, that's a great question, in that you're looking at the opponent we have for 2 games on the weekend, and sometimes I think it's a reality. First of all, the parity in this league is unbelievable. There's never team 32 playing team 1. You're not going to see 6. I mean, anyone can beat anyone any given night, especially in our sport. But I think they're pushing for some history, and I experienced that in Tampa, where we had a chance for the Red Wings record, which we ended up tying. It was real. Like, the guys did not let off. I kind of thought, when I look back on it now, it may have hurt us. In that when we got swept by Columbus, there was a little bit of, we got a little, I don't want to say selfish. We lost the sight of the big goal, which is obviously the playoffs. So, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get a Boston Bruin night off. Obviously where our roster is, and that was changed drastically over the last week. Sometimes you might catch an elite team sleeping on us. Just the way they're pushing, you can see, they're playing for something every night, and it's real. And you have different experiences throughout your career. I was fortunate enough to experience that. I mean, they're literally chasing history. So I think we'll get their best both nights.
Derek, can they probably handle it better than your Tampa team because
Yes.
it's a more veteran team?
100%. Experience, veteran group. That's probably why they have very little letdown in their game. I said this, when we played them early on, really early on, it was literally our fifth or sixth game. And it was a good hockey game. We were right there. If you guys recall, I think we might have even tied going to third, and they extended the lead on some power play. I knew they were a good team. And just even talking to my staff, I'm like, this is the best team in the league. They're actually deeper than our cup teams in Tampa. And that's a mouthful. And I really felt that. Did I see them doing this, especially in today's parity and day and age? Absolutely not. It's a credit to that group. It's a credit to that coaching staff. But that's a really good group that's primed to win. So it'll be interesting to watch them down the stretch.
Hey Derek, on Jake Walman, Steve said that he viewed him as a potential third-pair defenseman at the end of last season. I don't know what your expectations were for him this season, but how has he either met or exceeded those?
Well exceeded our expectations. Same thing. I didn't know what to think. We were wondering if we were going to get him in once he got healthy because our D were playing fairly well at the beginning of the season. So we did not see that. I had a little experience in that. One of my best friends, my college roommate, teammate, coached him in college, and he gave me a lot of good insight on who he is as a kid. What makes him tick a little bit. So I think I had a good feel of the individual, but he just kept growing and growing and growing, and he's really earned everything he's got. From the extension, but now it's a challenge of still playing within himself. I mean, you look at the last two games. We're down 2-0, playing a really good game though. He makes an unbelievable play on the blue line, and we fed off that. From that moment on, we really took over. Great play. You go back 2 games earlier, the previous game early, 3 days earlier, we're in pretty good spot. I wouldn't say in control in Philly, but he forces a play on the power play, ends up in the back of our net. So I still think he's going to have to balance managing his game, which doesn't happen overnight. So I think those are good experiences to learn from. But no, I did not have expectations of him being in our top 2 pair, us using him like we are, and that's a huge credit to him.
You've emphasized throughout the season the importance of just looking ahead after tough stretches or even regardless of wins or losses. When you look back on the last 6-7 games, what lessons can you take away to help now progress towards the next season?
I like that question because it goes back to what I've preached all year long. You got to play in the moment, and you can't get away from the task at hand on each day. And I can't. I'm not going to say we got away from that, but I think it's just us judging ourselves on us. Not our opponent, not where we are in the standings. And I think our guys have handled it well. We've bounced back all year. Obviously, it was very drastic, literally being above the playoff line with games in hand to where we are now, especially the drastic changes in our lineup. But it's still about us and playing the game correctly. And even these last couple games, when we've played it correctly, we've given ourselves a chance. So I think the lesson is the everyday, in the moment approach.
You're a good one.
Coaching for both now and kind of the future.
Yep.
What do you think carries over from a year, like a March run to the following September?
Just habits. I just like even you go into last night. We talked about just a handful of habits we want to really preach. One is bad turnovers, and we did one on the penalty kill, ended up the back of our net. Talked about it, learned from it. So I just think there's habits you can get through these last couple of games. Don't let them slip. That could lead into what we're trying to do as an organization.
Are you seeing Reardon kind of come back from that injury now a little bit?
Yep,
or?
I think so. Yeah, he's. I don't think he was himself after. That's those lower body type injuries he has. There's just sometimes it just takes some time to get back from, And every game he's looked a little more comfortable. So yes.